The story begins inside a dungeon, where a strange girl is quietly watching a guy while he sleeps. Without warning, the guy suddenly jolts awake, which causes her to jump back in fright as well. Shocked, she asks him if he is really a human, and he immediately yells at her for asking something so obvious. Once she realizes that he truly is a human, it completely confuses her. She starts wondering why a slime would drop a human into the dungeon, especially one who looked like he was about to die anyway. Normally, slimes only drop bean sprouts, so seeing one drop a human instead is extremely strange and makes no sense to her. The guy has no idea what she is talking about and cannot understand a single word she just said. Because of this, she decides to show him what she means by demonstrating. She walks over and easily takes down a nearby slime. The guy applauds her, impressed by her combat skills, but what truly shocks him is what happens next. The dead slime suddenly transforms into a pile of bean sprouts. The moment he sees this, his mind completely shuts down and he passes out, wondering what in the world is happening around him. After recovering, he asks her if smashing slimes is the only way to get bean sprouts. She confirms that it is, explaining that most items in dungeons are obtained from monsters after defeating them. As she explains this, she starts to genuinely believe that this guy is not from this world at all, because this kind of information is considered extremely basic knowledge. As they move deeper into the dungeon together, he notices that all she has done so far is fight slimes. Curious, he asks her if she plans to fight anything else. She explains that they are currently on the first level of the Tululu dungeon and that she is far too weak to fight stronger monsters at the moment. However, she also mentions that reaching level 2 is possible, depending on how much she trains and improves. The guy is still completely lost, so she decides to show him her status board, which displays all of her stats. He looks over it and notices that her survival and defense stats are all average. Turning to the next page, he sees her drop stats, which determine how easily items can be obtained. Most of her drop stats are extremely low, with many of them ranked at F tier. Curious, he checks his own status and discovers that while his survival and defense stats are terrible, his drop stats are ranked at S tier. The girl immediately assumes that S must be worse than F, since it comes later in the alphabet. However, having played many video games before, he knows that S tier actually ranks higher than it. To test this idea, he suggests defeating a slime himself to see what kind of drop he gets. He first tries to use her hammer, but it is far too heavy for him to handle. Seeing this, she quickly makes him a light bamboo stick, which he is able to use comfortably. He finds a slime and manages to defeat it. Moments later, the slime transforms into a massive pile of bean sprouts. This is the biggest drop the girl has ever seen in her life. Despite hunting in this dungeon for 2 years, she has never once seen a drop this incredible. After all the fighting, both of them start to feel hungry, so she prepares lunch using the bean sprouts they collected. When he takes his first bite, tears immediately fall from his eyes as the flavor hits him. The girl panics, thinking he might hate the taste, but he quickly tells her that is not the case. He explains that it has simply been a very long time since he sat down to share a warm meal with someone. He then begins talking about how miserable his previous life was, describing his dead-end job filled with unpaid overtime and how he lived as a lonely outcast with no friends at all. After finishing a long day at work, he would usually stop by a convenience store and eat some junk food. At first, living off convenience store meals seemed fine, but over time it began to seriously damage his health. Things eventually got so bad that he collapsed and had to be hospitalized. Even after being discharged from the hospital, he immediately returned to working overtime again. Completely exhausted one day, he decided to take a short nap, and the next thing he knew, he had woken up in this new world. As Sato explains all of this, he begins to cry, saying that no matter how hard he worked in his previous life, none of it ever paid off. Hearing this, Emily suddenly steps forward and hugs him, gently patting his head. She tells him that isn't true at all, because people who work hard are always rewarded. Some may receive their reward sooner, while others receive it much later, but in the end, they will eventually be rewarded, and that is what truly matters. She believes that Sato coming to this world was not an accident, but rather his reward for all the hard work he endured in his previous life. Sato thanks her for saying that, and after he finally calms down and stops crying, he realizes that he needs to find a place to stay. Emily tells him about a town nearby and explains that it would be easy for him to find a lodging there. However, she also mentions that she sleeps inside the dungeon herself, because her drops are so poor that she cannot afford to stay at an inn or rent a room. Before Sato leaves, he tells Emily that he will come back to visit her. Emily agrees, saying that it is fine because she will always be on the first level of the dungeon. The next day, when Sato arrives in town, he learns that the currency used in this world is called pylos. After understanding how things work, he returns to the dungeon and starts hunting as many slimes as possible. He keeps going until he finally earns enough money to rent a house. Once he secures the house, he brings Emily there and hands her the key, telling her that he got the place for her and that he will be covering the rent and other expenses. Emily immediately refuses, saying that this is far too kind of him, but Sato insists and tells her to accept it as a thank you for the soup she made for him. Emily starts to blush slightly and says that she will make that soup for him for the rest of his life. Hearing this, Sato pauses and wonders if that means she wants him to live together with her. He looks into her eyes and realizes that he simply cannot bring himself to say no to that. The next day, Sato goes to the guild and meets the receptionist, Ezra, to trade in the bean sprouts he collected from the dungeon. The large bag he brings in is valued at 1,967 pylos, but since Sato frequently brings in large quantities, Ezra rounds it up to an even 2,000 pylos for him. She tells him that he could earn much more money if he went down to the second level of the dungeon, since the monsters there drop carrots, which are far more valuable than bean sprouts. Ezra also tells him about the Nihonium dungeon that recently appeared and suggests that he try his luck there as well. She explains that these kinds of dungeons appear from time to time, so it is not unusual. The Neptune group is currently investigating the monsters inside, so more information will be available eventually. At this point, Sato realizes that he has been holding up the line for too long, and the people behind him are starting to look impatient. Before he leaves, Ezra suddenly asks him out for a drink at a nearby bar, but Sato politely turns her down and says he will pass. On his way home, Sato feels strangely nervous, because this is the first time in decades that someone is actually waiting for him to return home. When he opens the door, he is greeted by Emily, who is standing there with a bright smile, happily welcoming him back. He looks around the house and notices how clean everything is. Emily proudly tells him that she enjoys keeping the place tidy, explaining that taking care of her own space is something she genuinely likes doing now. As she starts getting ready to prepare dinner, Sato asks her if she knows anything about the dungeon that recently appeared. Emily says she has heard rumors about it, but according to what people are saying, the dungeon has no drops at all. Sato finds this strange, because in a world where almost everything comes from monster drops, a dungeon with no drops is extremely unusual and intriguing. With that thought in mind, Sato decides to head into the dungeon to see it for himself. He walks around for a while, but at first he does not find anything at all. Suddenly, a skeleton appears out of nowhere. Sato tries to fight it using his bamboo stick, but since the enemy is made entirely of bones, the stick passes straight through it without doing any damage. Just as things start to look bad, a large block falls from above and pins the skeleton to the ground, as if the universe itself is helping him. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Sato uses his stick to finish the skeleton off. After defeating it, he is surprised to see that the only thing it drops is a single bean. He picks up the bean to examine it, but it suddenly disappears from his hand. Immediately after that, he hears an automated voice announcing that his HP class has increased by 1. Sato later tells Emily about what happened, and when he shows her his status screen, she cannot believe her eyes. His HP class really has increased, something that should not be possible so easily. Because of this discovery, they continue defeating more skeletons together. Each time Sato lands the final blow, he finds another bean, but Emily never receives one when she defeats a skeleton herself. Even when she tries to pick up one of the beans that Sato gets, her hand simply passes right through it as if it does not exist for her. Seeing this, Sato realizes something disturbing. A dungeon that grants such powerful advantages to only a select few people would inevitably create a massive imbalance in the world. He begins to feel that a place like this dungeon should not exist at all. The next day, Sato sits at the table enjoying lunch with Emily. During the meal, he tells her that he plans to return to the dungeon to continue leveling up his stats. This time, he intends to go down to level 2 to see how strong he has become. Hearing this, Emily starts to worry about him and tells him not to be too reckless. Her concern makes Sato realize something important. In his former life, there was no one who truly worried about him. Now that someone does, he knows he will never take that feeling for granted again. Sato Sato reassures Emily that he will be careful this time. He then heads to the Tululu dungeon and is quickly struck by a slime. However, he immediately notices that the attack barely hurts at all. Nothing like how it used to. He realizes that this must be what having S rank HP feels like. He lets the slime hit him a few more times and sees that the damage remains extremely low. Confident now, he uses his bamboo stick to impale the slime, and just as expected, it drops a carrot. Soon after, another slime approaches him, but before Sato can attack, someone else defeats it with a powerful fire spell. A group of adventurers walks over to him, and the first thing they do is check his level. When they see that he is only level 1, they burst out laughing and tell him to leave the area before he gets himself killed. Sato quietly turns his back on them and continues hunting slimes on his own. As he moves deeper in the dungeon, he suddenly runs into a cute girl with bunny ears. She notices that he is also level 1 and immediately tells him that she hates low-level guys. She flicks him on the forehead and walks away without another word. Later, back at home, Emily is amazed when she sees the size of the carrots Sato brought back, as well as how many he has collected. Sato casually adds that this is not even all of them, since he already sold the rest for 8,000 pylos. Hearing this, Emily is completely shocked that he managed to earn that much money in a single day. Just then, someone knocks on the door. Sato goes to check and is surprised to see the same bunny-eared girl from the dungeon standing there. She bluntly tells him that she still hates guys with low levels, but for some reason, she really likes him. Emily has no idea what is going on, so all she can do is stare in shock and confusion. The bunny-eared girl suddenly chops Sato in the face, just like she had done before, but this time it doesn't have any effect on him at all. To show how deadly that attack normally is, she brings over a low-level adventurer and uses that exact same chop on him, instantly killing him without any hesitation. She finds Sato incredibly interesting because she has now used this deadly move on him twice, yet it still has no effect at all. Sato immediately realizes that this is probably because his HP is S rank, but he doesn't want to explain or track that fact, so he simply asks her what she is doing here. The bunny girl pulls a carrot out from somewhere in her chest and says bluntly that she wants more carrots. She explains that she managed to snag this one when Sato dropped a carrot while returning from the dungeon the other day. She glances around the house and notices the massive stockpile of carrots they have, and the sight of so many delicious-looking carrots makes her start drooling uncontrollably. Emily, noticing just how much the girl loves carrots, invites her inside to eat. Emily then proceeds to prepare a full 5-star meal using the carrots, and the three of them sit down together at the table to enjoy it. They eat heartily, stuffing their faces until they are completely full. After finishing the meal, the bunny girl abruptly gets up and leaves without even saying a word. Sato feels slightly upset because they didn't even get her name during the visit, which leaves him feeling a bit frustrated and curious. Putting that aside, Emily thanks Sato sincerely for getting the house for them, explaining that before he arrived, she was always so lonely and had to eat her meals entirely alone. Now, they have a place where they can share warm meals together, and she tells Sato that she wants them to continue having their meals together from now on. He wholeheartedly agrees to this, happy to share this new life with her. The next day, Sato heads into the second level of the Nihonium dungeon. Now that he has gained such a cozy and comfortable life, he knows that the only way to ensure that it continues is by getting stronger and improving his abilities. While exploring this new level, he comes across a zombie and attempts to fight it using his bamboo stick. However, during the fight, his bamboo stick breaks, leaving him without a weapon. With no other option, Sato and the zombie engage in a bare-handed fist fight until Sato finally defeats it. Its corpse yields a bean, and when he picks it up this time, it grants him strength instead of just disappearing. As he continues, he suddenly hears strange sounds coming from behind him. When he looks back, he sees the bunny girl watching him intently. She immediately charges at him again, chops him in the face, and demands to know when he is going to bring more carrots next. She puts on a terrifying, angry expression and threatens to kill him if he doesn't have carrots ready for her the next time she comes to visit. Scared for his life, Sato promises that he will get as many carrots as possible and brings them to her at the guild the next day. As he walks up to her, the other adventurers start whispering and murmuring, wondering why a regular-looking guy is walking straight toward the infamous killing rabbit. Sato hands her a carrot, and everyone expects complete chaos to break out, but to their surprise, she simply nibbles at it politely like a well-behaved girl. girl. Everyone in the guild watches in stunned awe, unable to believe their eyes at her calm behavior. Ezra walks over to Sato and asks him if he is friends with her. Sato explains that they are not exactly friends. He simply started giving her carrots, and now she likes him. Ezra informs Sato that this cute bunny girl is named Eve and that she earned the nickname the Killing Rabbit because she literally kills anyone who gives her bad tasting carrots. Because Sato somehow managed to get carrots that Eve approves of, Ezra agrees to buy them from him for triple the original price, which comes out to about 15,000 pylos per carrot. Any carrot that Eve approves of is guaranteed to sell for a high price, making them extremely valuable. Sato is shocked to learn how feared Eve is by everyone around him and how much money he is making just by giving her carrots. Eve then approaches him once again, asking for more carrots. Sato promises that he will bring her more carrots tomorrow, and she nods before getting up and leaving. The next day, after Sato and Emily have successfully completed a major haul in the Tululu dungeon, Sato decides to stretch his legs with a walk outside the dungeon. While walking, he spots two exhausted adventurers struggling to defeat a single, weak slime. Suddenly, a man they call their captain appears seemingly out of nowhere and effortlessly smashes the slime, resolving their struggle in an instant. The two adventurers begged their captain to give them a break, explaining that they hadn't rested or slept at all for the past 2 days. The captain turned back to glare at them, his expression terrifying. He called them weaklings, saying that back in his day, he could hunt in these dungeons for weeks on end without rest. He told them that he was being strict for their own good, so they would grow stronger and learn how to survive. With no choice but to obey, the adventurers followed him, walking out of the dungeon under his watchful eye. Sato watched them leave and honestly wished he hadn't just seen that. It reminded him of his own past, back when he had a boss who worked him to the ground while insisting it was all for his own good. Shaking off the memory, Emily walked up to him, carrying his lunch. They all sat down together to enjoy the food. Eve smelled the meal from a mile away and came running over, joining them without hesitation. She devoured the food eagerly, loving every bite because most of it was made with carrots. Sato also seemed to be enjoying himself more than ever. Eating like this with friends, surrounded by good food and laughter, felt relaxing in a way he hadn't experienced before. The captain from earlier happened to spot them eating inside the dungeon. He barked at his lackeys, warning them not to follow their example, because eating inside the dungeon was completely unacceptable. Eve, however, wasn't intimidated. She marched over to them and shoved carrots into the adventurers' mouths. They tasted it, and immediately their eyes widened. It was the most delicious thing they had ever eaten. Eve then glared at the captain and threatened him, saying he better never call anyone weak again. With that, she and the group left, leaving the captain fuming in silence. Afterward, Sato and Emily headed to the guild to drop off the extra carrots they had collected. They had brought as much as they could carry, though there was still far more left. Ezra suggested they get a magic cart, which would allow them to carry an effectively infinite number of items. With that in mind, they visited the magic shop to buy a cart, but it was far too expensive for them at the moment. Reluctantly, they left and decided to return once they had saved enough money. On their way home, they heard people shouting and running in panic. Emily noticed Sato looked confused and explained that a stray had appeared. She told him that a stray is a monster that shows up where people leave drops, usually in areas where there aren't many people. This time, the stray was a giant gorilla that had already destroyed nearly half the city. The entire population was evacuating, except for Ezra, who was about to be crushed by the beast. At the last second, Sato leapt forward and used his immense strength to defend her, stopping the gorilla from landing a fatal blow. Ezra stared at him in shock, realizing for the first time just how strong he actually was. Shortly after, Eve and the other adventurers arrived, trying to take down the gorilla. However, the beast was so formidable that none of them could get close. Sato immediately began charging toward it. He told the others to restrain the beast while he led the attack. The adventurers assumed he was some arrogant weakling and doubted he could do anything, but with no other options, they reluctantly followed his lead and worked together to restrain the creature. This gave Sato the perfect opportunity to deliver a massive punch straight into the gorilla's gut, taking it down instantly. With the beast defeated, everyone began cheering for him. Sato felt a rush of satisfaction because this was the first time anyone had ever genuinely been happy about something he had done. Just as he was enjoying the moment, he heard the familiar sound that plays when he receives a drop. Normally, strays like this weren't supposed to give drops at all, but Sato realized that since he was bending bending the rules of this world anyway, it might be possible. He walked over to check it out and was completely shocked at what he found. The drop Sato received from the defeated gorilla turns out to be a revolver. Since guns are not supposed to exist in this world at all, he has no idea how he should feel about it. Confused, he immediately heads into the dungeon to test it out. The weapon proves to be incredibly useful, as he is able to take down zombies from a distance and even kill several of them at once. Because of this, he is able to collect drops much faster than before, which allows him to level up at a far quicker pace than usual. Later on, Sato meets up with Emily inside the dungeon for lunch. While they eat together, he tells her that his strength has risen to B class ever since he started exploring the second level of the dungeon. Emily is genuinely happy for him, and after sharing the news, they spend the next few minutes peacefully enjoying their meal together. After lunch, Sato feels like trying something different. Instead of hunting on the usual floors, they decide to head further down into the lower levels of the dungeon. These deeper floors are home to monsters known as cockroach-slimes, creatures that drop pumpkins when defeated. The cockroach-slimes resemble cockroaches, so Sato assumes Emily will be terrified of them. However, to his complete surprise, Emily immediately takes the lead and starts smashing them without hesitation, wearing an unusually intense and frightening expression on her face. A dark aura suddenly surrounds Emily as she declares that she will not allow a single one of them to escape. She ruthlessly wipes out every cockroach slime in sight. Once the last one falls and the pumpkin drop appears, Emily finally returns to her normal self. Seeing this, Sato decides that the best course of action is for them to leave the area as quickly as possible, because he really does not want Emily to enter that frightening state again. On their way out, several more cockroach slimes crawl out from a crack in the wall. Emily is about to go into frenzy mode again, but Sato quickly tells her not to worry. He pulls out his revolver and shoots every last one of them himself. Thanks to his S-rank drop skill, the pumpkins that drop are far larger than normal. They begin wondering how they are supposed to carry them out, since the massive pumpkins are so big that they end up blocking the exit. Suddenly, the pumpkins go flying as Eve arrives to collect her daily carrots. Emily had already expected her to show up, so she calmly hands her some carrots. Later that day, Sato and Emily sell most of the pumpkins at the guild. When they return to check on the remaining ones, Sato assumes that some kind of monster must have gotten to them before they came back. However, Emily immediately realizes that this is not the work of a random monster. Emily's expression darkens as she says that the cockroach slimes must have somehow made it out of the dungeon. She starts to slip back into frenzy mode, but Sato stops her. He does not want her to enter that terrifying state again, so he vows to take care of the problem by himself. He begins shooting at the cockroach slimes with his revolver, but eventually runs out of bullets. With no other choice, he uses his bare hands, and after several exhausting hours, he finally manages to kill every last one of them. Afterward, something unexpected happens. The defeated cockroach slimes transform into revolver bullets. Completely shocked, Sato and Emily can only stare in awe at what they are seeing. Sato later goes to the guild, where Ezra explains that this is actually normal behavior. If dropped items are left in an area where no people are present, monsters will eventually spawn around them. Hearing this, Sato realizes that Emily had already told him something similar before, but he had completely forgotten. Remembering how the revolver bullets appeared after killing the strays, Sato begins to wonder if he could intentionally lure monsters out for that exact purpose. As he is thinking this over, Ezra suddenly blushes and asks Sato out to dinner. Instead of responding, Sato panics and runs out of the guild, eager to put his new plan into action. Sato heads into the forest and places a carrot on the ground, then hides in the bushes while waiting for a stray to appear. However, instead of a stray, Eve shows up almost immediately, having been drawn by the strong scent of carrots. Sato struggles for a bit, but eventually manages to convince her to leave. After she goes away, he places another carrot down and hides again. This time, his plan works. A stray emerges from the carrot, only to instantly vanish and transform into several bullets for his revolver. Seeing this, Sato realizes that his theory was correct. With his experiment confirmed, Sato heads into the Nihonium dungeon and tries repeating the same process there. However, every drop he gets either disappears or has no effect, since his HP-related stats are already maxed out. Realizing there's nothing more to gain for now, he decides to call it a day and head home. On his way out, he suddenly gets ambushed by a skeleton. The two of them fight briefly, and Sato ends up throwing the skeleton outside the dungeon. To his surprise, the skeleton vanishes vanishes the moment it leaves the dungeon. Confused, Sato goes to the guild to ask about it. Ezra explains that monsters disappear the moment they leave a dungeon. If that wasn't the case, strays would be appearing constantly all over the world. After explaining this, Ezra compliments Sato for being such a talented adventurer and asks him out to dinner yet again. As usual, Sato panics, ignores the invitation, and runs out of the building after coming up with a brand new plan. Sato immediately returns to the dungeon. This time, he grabs a skeleton and throws it outside, but right before it fully disappears, he shoots it with his revolver. His plan works. Since the monster was killed just before hitting the ground, it counts as a stray. The drop he receives is a bullet, but not a normal one. It is a frozen bullet. At first, Sato has no idea what it does, so he tests it by shooting a nearby tree. The tree instantly freezes solid, turning into a thick block of ice. Seeing this, Sato realizes just how useful these bullets are going to be. However, since he doesn't have many of them, he decides to be careful. He plans to use regular bullets most of the time and save the frozen ones for special situations. After that, Sato and Emily spend some time hunting in the dungeon together. Once they finish a successful day of hunting, they begin heading home. Along the way, they encounter a fat merchant and his assistant arguing loudly. Apparently, a piece of precious cargo fell off a cliff. Sato offers to help, saying that if someone can get him a rope, he can retrieve it. The assistant quickly warns him not to do that, explaining that the cargo has been down there for a long time and is most likely crawling with strays. She suggests simply using magic to burn it, but the merchant immediately panics and tells her not to even think about it, since the cargo is extremely valuable. Just as the assistant predicted, a stray suddenly appears. It is a monster known as a femini, which possesses the merchant and begins controlling him like a puppet. Without hesitation, Sato pulls out his revolver and fires 3 shots, instantly putting the creature down. Afterward, the assistant tells Sato to leave and take her boss with him. She believes the accident was her fault and says she is willing to bear the consequences. Her plan is to go down there alone and fight as many femini as possible, even if it means dying in the process. Hearing this, Sato is reminded of his former life, when a coworker made a mistake and was forced to work non-stop for 5 days without sleep. Back then, Sato wanted to help, but he was too selfish and could only worry about himself. Now, he vows that things will be different in this life. He believes the abilities he has gained were meant for situations exactly like this. With that resolve, Sato uses his frozen bullets, along with help from Emily, to wipe out all the femini and save everyone involved. The next day, Sato and Emily make their way into the 4th level of the Tululu dungeon. As they explore deeper, they suddenly spot a rare monster wandering around the area. Realizing this is a valuable opportunity, the two of them immediately work together to defeat it. After the monster is killed, it drops a bracelet. Upon inspecting it, they discover that the bracelet has a special effect. When worn, it doubles a person's drop rate. Without hesitation, Sato gives the bracelet to Emily. After she puts it on, she goes ahead and defeats a few nearby monsters, and this time, instead of the usual drops, she yields several bamboo shoots at once. The difference is obvious, and the bracelet clearly works exactly as advertised. After finishing up their hunt, they head back home for lunch. While Emily is preparing the meal in their small and cramped kitchen, Sato starts to feel bad watching her work in such a limited space. As they sit down and eat together, he brings up an idea that has been on his mind for a while. He suggests that they move into a bigger and much nicer place, pointing out that they've been earning enough money lately to comfortably afford it. Emily really likes the sound of that idea, and after thinking about it for a moment, she happily agrees, clearly excited at the thought of having a better home. Later on, Sato heads over to the guild to sell the bamboo shoots they collected. Just before he can do that, a woman with green hair suddenly appears behind him and asks if she can have one of his bamboo shoots. Sato agrees without much thought. The woman takes a bamboo shoot, chops it into 6 pieces, and carefully tastes each one. Almost immediately, her expression changes as she declares that these are the most delicious bamboo shoots she has ever tasted. Growing extremely enthusiastic, she asks to buy the rest of his bamboo shoots as well. Based on how excited she seems, Sato assumes she's about to offer him a very high price. However, to his surprise, all she offers is 20,000 pylos. She then takes the bamboo shoots and leaves right away. Sato honestly expected more money, but he knows it would be wrong to complain, so he simply accepts the payment as it is. Curious about her identity, Sato asks Ezra whether that woman was someone important. Ezra explains that her name is Eric and that she's a very famous epicure. Any food she approves of instantly gains much higher value on the market. Because of this, Ezra proposes forming a contract with Sato. She suggests selling his bamboo shoots as branded products endorsed by Eric, with Sato receiving a commission from every sale. Sato thinks it over carefully and realizes that this arrangement would bring in much more money over time, so he agrees to the contract. After that business is settled, Sato heads back into the Nihonium dungeon. To his surprise, he notices other people there who are tactically and efficiently taking down a skeleton. One of them approaches Sato and asks him not to get in their way, explaining that the woman over there is Princess Margaret and that she would hate to be interrupted. Sato then learns that these people figured out that monsters release special air after they're defeated. They collect this air, store it in carts, and sell it. Realistically, it only has such high value because Princess Margaret herself is the one selling it. As Sato watches how efficiently they're storing everything, he's reminded once again of how badly he's always wanted a magic cart. Still, he knows it would be a major expense. He goes back home and talks it over with Emily, asking her whether it would be better to buy a new house first or get the magic cart instead. After thinking about it, Emily suggests that buying the magic cart first would be the better option. With it, they'd be able to earn more money much faster and eventually afford the house without any trouble. Sato agrees with her reasoning. The next day, the two of them go magic cart shopping. When they arrive at the shop, they find the shop owner's daughter, Olga, crying. She explains that her father hasn't come home yet. The only thing she knows is that he went to gather flowers in the arsenic dungeon. Sato and Emily assume there's a good chance he's still there, so they rush over, believing something bad must have happened to him. However, when they finally find him, they're shocked to see that he's just asleep on the floor. Emily wakes him up by smashing her hammer into the ground beside him. Sato asks what he's doing there in the first place, and the man explains that he came looking for the final ingredients needed to complete his magic cart prototype: heavy rocks and light rocks. He's already managed to get the heavy rock, but the light rock has been extremely difficult to obtain because it's so light that it floats in the air. So, to help him out, Sato and Emily work together to retrieve the light rock. After carefully coordinating their efforts, they finally manage to bring it down, and when they do, it ends up yielding a blue flower. However, even after that, things are not completely finished yet. Olga's father takes the blue flower outside the dungeon and deliberately drops it onto the ground. The group then waits for it to transform into a stray. Once it does, the flower becomes even lighter than before and starts floating up into the air, threatening to drift away entirely. Luckily, Sato reacts quickly and fires one of his ice bullets, weighing it down and stopping it from escaping. With that, Olga's father finally has everything he needs to complete the magic cart. They all head back to the shop together, and after Olga's father finishes building the cart, he decides to give it to Sato and Emily as a way of thanking them for their help. At first, Sato strongly refuses to accept such an expensive gift, insisting that it's far too much, but after some back and forth, he and Emily eventually agree to take it. After that, Sato heads over to the guild to offload more of the items they've gathered. When he arrives, he immediately notices a cranky adventurer shouting at Ezra. Clearly furious, the man insists that the items he brought in should be valued much higher than what he's being offered. Ezra calmly explains that the value of his items is 8,400 pylos, but the adventurer refuses to accept it, claiming he deserves at least 20,000 pylos instead. His anger escalates to the point where he's about to punch Ezra, but just before his fist connects, Sato freezes the man's arm in place with one of his bullets. Sato then calmly walks over with his new magic cart, which has the ability to automatically estimate the value of an adventurer's drops. He places the items inside, and the cart immediately displays the value as exactly 8,400 pylos, matching what Ezra had said. Realizing he was wrong, the adventurer becomes embarrassed and, out of frustration, tries to sucker punch Sato instead. Sato casually swats him away like a fly, completely unfazed. The situation ends with Sato receiving praise from everyone around him for saving Ezra. Being rescued by Sato only makes Ezra fall even deeper in love with him. This time, she doesn't hesitate. She steps forward and kisses Sato right on the lips without warning. She doesn't even give him time to react before simply turning around and walking away. Sato is left standing there with a bright red blush spread across his face. After that incident, Sato and Emily continue working hard. grinding through the dungeons day after day until they finally earn enough money to move into a new house. Once everything is settled, they pack up their belongings and prepare to leave. However, as Sato looks around their old place, he's flooded with memories of everything they've been through there. He feels like they can't just let it go so easily, so he suggests keeping the lease on the house so they can come back whenever they want. Emily agrees with the idea. The next day, they fully move into their new house. After breakfast is prepared, Eve suddenly shows up out of nowhere, and the three of them end up sitting down together to share another meal. That afternoon, Sato heads to the guild with no real intention of doing any dungeon runs right away. He just wants to relax for once, maybe sit around, clear his head, and enjoy a bit of peace before heading back into dangerous territory. While he's doing exactly that, a handsome man suddenly approaches him. The man has two beautiful girls wrapped around his arms, clearly showing off. Without any warning, he challenges Sato to an arm wrestle. Sato is completely confused by this sudden request and wonders why someone would randomly come up to him and ask for something like that out of the blue. Seeing the confusion on Sato's face, the man explains that he has heard rumors about Sato being unusually strong and wanted to confirm whether those rumors were true or not. Sato realizes that this guy is clearly full of confidence and probably used to winning, and he feels like he can't just let this smug attitude slide. Deciding to accept the challenge, Sato agrees to the arm wrestle. The match begins, and almost immediately, both of them realize they made a mistake by underestimating the other. Their arms shake as neither side is willing to give in, and the pressure keeps increasing. The arm wrestle turns into a serious contest instead of a simple test of strength. It's an extremely close match, with both of them pushing themselves harder than expected. In the end, Sato manages to overpower him and slam his opponent's arm down onto the table. The people watching are stunned, unable to believe that Sato actually won. That's when Sato realizes that this man isn't just some random adventurer. He learns that the man is Neptune, the leader of the most powerful organization in the town. Neptune laughs it off and asks for another round, clearly excited, but Sato refuses, saying that he doesn't want to attract any more attention than he already has. Neptune takes this refusal personally and gets offended. Without warning, he throws a sucker punch at Sato. Sato reacts instantly, catching the punch midair. The sheer force behind Neptune's punch causes his own body to be thrown backward when Sato stops it. Neptune then stands back up, walks over to Sato with a wide smile on his face, and asks him to join his organization, saying that someone as strong as him shouldn't be wasting his talents. Sato politely but firmly refuses, explaining that all he wants is to live a quiet and peaceful life together with Emily. He does admit that he's flattered to be considered, but his answer doesn't change. The next day, Sato heads into the Nihonium dungeon once again. While exploring, he runs into Princess Margaret and her group. One of her subordinates proudly introduces their newest invention, a device known as a Pandora box. The box is capable of absorbing an adventurer's drops and even displaying the face of the person who yielded them. This invention was created because people had begun to doubt whether the princess herself was actually responsible for the drops being sold under her name. To help promote the product, the man gives Sato a few Pandora boxes and asks him to use them. Sato immediately realizes how useful these boxes can be. By storing all of his drops inside them, he can safely carry everything outside the dungeon and repeatedly farm freezing bullets whenever he wants. After experimenting for a while, he manages to obtain a new kind of ammunition, a fire bullet and an unfamiliar white bullet, something he has never gotten before. As he's examining it and thinking about how useful it might be, Emily suddenly rushes toward him and urgently warns him that a powerful magic storm is approaching. Naturally, Sato has absolutely no idea what that even means, so he decides to head over to the guild to ask Ezra about it. Ezra explains that a magic storm is a rare magical phenomenon that temporarily prevents people from using magic at all for a short period of time. According to the rumors, this particular magic storm is said to be extremely powerful, so strong that it may even reach deep into the lower levels of various dungeons. Just as Ezra finishes explaining, an adventurer named Reyes suddenly rushes into the guild and desperately asks for help. He explains that his partner, Rosa, was left behind inside the Silicon Dungeon and has no way of escaping on her own now that the magic storm is approaching. Everyone in the guild immediately understands how dangerous the Silicon Dungeon is, and because of that, none of the adventurers present are willing to risk their lives to help someone they don't even know. Seeing this happen, Sato thinks back to the moment when when Emily once called him a hero. At that point, he realizes that maybe the reason he was given all this strength in the first place was so he could help people in situations like this. With that thought in mind, Sato steps forward and tells Reyes that he will go and help Rosa. Without wasting any more time, he heads straight into the third level of the Silicon Dungeon. Inside the dungeon, Sato quickly encounters several monsters. He soon realizes that monsters in this dungeon take no damage from normal, non-magical attacks. Because of that, Sato relies entirely on his magic bullets, using them to defeat every monster that gets in his way. After pushing deeper inside, he eventually finds Rosa lying unconscious on the floor. Meanwhile, back at the guild, Emily arrives looking for Sato. When Ezra tells her about the dangerous situation he's in, Emily immediately drops everything she's doing and runs straight toward the Silicon Dungeon to help him. Back inside the dungeon, Sato tries to carry Rosa out, but his escape is cut short when another monster appears. Unfortunately, at the worst possible moment, Sato runs out of bullets. With no way to fight back, all he can do is run while carrying Rosa as the monster chases after him. At this point, Sato begins to accept what he thinks might be his fate. However, just when things seem hopeless, Emily and Eve come rushing in to save him. Sato feels immediate relief the moment he sees them, and that relief grows even stronger when he realizes they brought extra bullets with them. With renewed hope, the three of them work together and successfully defeat the monster. After clearing out the remaining monsters, they manage to bring Rosa safely outside the dungeon. Reyes is overwhelmed with relief when he sees that she's still alive, but she's badly injured and unable to use healing magic because the magic storm is still active. Sato calmly tells him not to worry and pulls out a healing bullet he discovered just a few hours earlier. He uses it on Rosa, fully healing her. Seeing this, Reyes thanks Sato deeply before lifting Rosa onto his back and carrying her home. The next day, after Sato finishes collecting watermelons on the 5th level of the Tululu dungeon, he brings them back to the guild for assessment. Before Ezra has a chance to check them, Eric appears right behind her and says that she will do the honors of assessing the watermelons herself. She tastes one and finds it extremely delicious. Seeing a critic enjoy the watermelons so much makes everyone around want to try them too. Because of this, Ezra asks to form an exclusive contract with Sato for the watermelons. Sato is very happy when he hears this because it means he will have an extra source of income. After that, Ezra remembers that watermelons come from the 5th level of the Tululu dungeon. She suggests that Sato get his license registered so he will be able to safely go to the 6th level and lower levels. With that said, Sato and Emily head to the license office. When they arrive, they see the examiner in charge and explain that they are there to get their licenses. The examiner does not say much and instead takes them into the exam arena. There, he transforms a watermelon into a stray that is shaped like a metal slime, and he tells them that getting their license will depend on whether they can defeat this stray. Sato immediately tries to use his brute strength, but it has no effect. Instead, he loads his revolver with ice and fire bullets. He shoots the fire bullet at the stray first, then follows it with an ice bullet. The sudden change in temperature makes the metal brittle, and one single tap is enough to break it completely. The examiner is very impressed and gives Sato his license immediately. With his license now in hand, Sato realizes he needs to increase his strength even more to make sure he can handle all the monsters. A few days later, he and Emily go into the desert. They leave a piece of tuna alone for a while, and it transforms into the same gorilla monster they had faced a couple of weeks earlier. This time, Sato is prepared for everything. He uses an ice bullet to freeze the gorilla in place, then shoots it in the eyes with a regular bullet, killing it after the beast dies. It confirms Sato's theory by dropping a new gun and some bullets. He can now dual wield his guns, which gives him more opportunities to perform combos. Emily sees that he is holding two guns at the same time and realizes that things could get very bad if Sato ever turned evil. After that, Sato goes to the guild and sees Ezra looking sad. He asks her what is wrong, and Ezra explains that the Adalberg group, who are in charge of the 6th level of the Silicon Dungeon where rice is harvested, are refusing to sell to her unless she raises the price per unit. Ezra says she literally cannot do that even if she wanted to, because it would destroy the guild's budget. Sato understands how serious this is, so he goes to the Silicon Dungeon to talk to whoever is in charge. While he is there, he runs into Neptune. Sato asks what he is doing there, and and Neptune explains that the people's patience has run out, so he is here to kill the people in the dungeon who are restricting rice sales. Sato thinks that might be too extreme, so he asks Neptune to let him handle the situation because he believes he can stop them without killing anyone. Sato goes into the dungeon and finds the Adalberg group, confident that no one will be able to stop him. As soon as they see him, they all gang up and are about to attack, but Sato quickly takes out both of his guns and shoots 2 healing bullets at the same time. The bullets fuse together and, on impact, knock the Adalberg group unconscious. After receiving the extra gun, Sato had learned that fusing different bullets produces different effects, so fusing 2 healing bullets doubles their effect and knocks out whoever is hit. Neptune arrives shortly after and is impressed by how easily Sato handled the group. He helps Sato take them outside and tie them up. As Sato finishes tying the last of them, a creepy bald man watches him from the shadows. Realizing that this is the famous Sato, the bald man arranges a meeting with Sato and introduces himself as Clint, the dungeon chief of Sekro. He tells Sato that a new dungeon has been discovered between Sekro and the neighboring town, Hetero. In this case, ownership of the dungeon would be decided based on the ratio of the drops. If the drops have a higher vegetable ratio, Sekro would claim it, while if the drops have a higher meat ratio, Hetero would take it. But now the problem is that the drops have an equal proportion of meat and vegetables, so there is no automatic way to decide who will get ownership. The only way to decide is to have a battle for it. And since Sato is known for his immense strength and excellent drop rates, Clint believes he is the best person for the job. Sato is not expected to do this for free. Of course, Clint tells Sato that even if they lose, he will still receive a monetary reward, and if they win, on top of the reward, he would be exempted from all taxes and would never have to pay any in the future. Hearing this, Sato knows he would be foolish not to accept the offer, so he goes home to prepare himself. When he arrives, he tells Emily about it, and she is very excited. She promises to hold down the fort until he returns, but to her surprise, Sato asks her to come along with him, which shocks her at first. She later agrees to join him. Eve then appears suddenly and asks what they are going to do about the carrots. Sato promises that they will collect as many as possible before leaving. With that settled, Sato and Emily begin their journey to the dungeon. After spending the entire day walking toward their destination, they set up a tent to spend the night. Emily was the one who packed the tent, so Sato did not expect much. He thought it would just have sleeping bags and pillows, but to his surprise, when he opens the tent, the interior is almost like a 5-star hotel. The best part is that it even comes with a home-cooked meal, and Sato could not be happier. Sato asks how she managed to pack all of this, and Emily explains that she simply fit it all into her backpack. After they eat, Emily is about to go outside to burn their trash, and that is when Sato learns that in this world, trash turns into strays if it is left unattended. He gets an idea and takes a piece of trash outside to turn it into a stray, wondering if it might drop something special. The stray transforms into a Frankenstein-like creature. Sato fuses 2 fire bullets and uses them to burn it to the ground. After it is defeated, it drops a new special type of bullet known as a homing bullet, which can track its target if the shooter misses. Emily sighs again because Sato has gained yet another dangerous tool. The next day, they arrive at Selin, the dungeon located between Hetero and Sekro. As they look around, they notice several piles of trash just sitting there. Sato wonders what kinds of monsters would form from the trash if it were turned into strays, but Emily reassures him that they do not need to worry because there are a lot of people nearby, so that is unlikely to happen. Then they see a girl who is clearly overworked, burning the trash. Sato and Emily notice that she is so exhausted she could collapse at any moment, so they hurry over to help. The girl tells them not to worry about her, but shortly after, she faints and Sato catches her. The girl stumbled back toward the trash, saying it was her job to keep it under control. She tried to burn it with magic, but Sato had seen this happen too many times. He quickly hit her with a sleeping bullet, and she fell unconscious. A few hours later, she woke up in their 5-star tent. Going outside, she saw it was already late. She rushed to the trash and was relieved to see it all still there, though some had started turning into strays. Luckily, Sato used his magic revolver to take care of them. He and Emily walked up to her and assured her everything was handled before taking her back for a 5-star meal. She introduced herself as Celeste. While they ate, Sato and Emily told her not to worry about the trash. They had moved it close to the tent so it couldn't turn into strays. Celeste thanked them and eventually fell asleep during the meal. The next day, Celeste woke up full of energy and was now able to burn trash more efficiently. Sato and Emily suggested she stay with them so she wouldn't get tired, and although she refused at first, she eventually agreed after they insisted. Later, Sato and Emily went to meet the person in charge of the strays. On the way, Emily spotted some diamond rings she liked, but Sato couldn't afford them. They soon met the man in charge, Duke, who showed them the Selin dungeon floor plan. The vegetable and meat floors were equal in value, so the kingdom whose adventurers got the rarest drops in the time limit would claim the dungeon. Sato wanted to start hunting immediately, but Duke explained that adventurers on the vegetable floors were supposed to capture monsters alive. Sato realized the plan relied entirely on him and felt proud. Suddenly, a soldier rushed in saying they had caught a rare monster on the first level. At the dungeon, an adventurer was holding it down. The dungeon chief of Hetero, Harvard, arrived with Eugene, an S-rank fighter but F-rank at getting drops. Eugene's goal was to steal any drops by attacking monsters first. Sato shot at the rare monster, but it only grew bigger. He realized it had a hidden core. Hitting anywhere else made it stronger. Eugene aimed at the core, but Sato used a homing bullet that tracked and destroyed it instantly. Yielding bean sprouts, Duke was relieved, and Eugene was furious. Duke gave Sato a large cash reward for his efforts. Later, Sato returned to the tent where Celeste was still sleeping and told Emily about the day. He then gave her the ring she liked. Emily refused because it was expensive, but Sato insisted, saying her happiness was worth it. The next day, they entered the dungeon. Emily checked her stats and saw they had increased by 1. Sato explained that before giving her the ring, he had let it turn into a stray and then defeated it, so it now boosted the wearer's power. Emily tested her strength. It had grown, and she even got some rare meat as a drop, making her proud. Suddenly, a rare monster from the meat floor appeared. Sato considered killing it himself, but realized letting Hetero handle it would keep the scores balanced. Emily threw the ring Sato gave her into his hand. He caught it, loaded his gun, froze the monster, and let Emily deliver the final blow. With Sato's help, her F-rank drop turned into a successful capture, leaving Hetero with nothing. Later, Duke congratulated Sato, but warned that Hetero's backup adventurers were coming to fill the vegetable floors with low-rank adventurers, lowering their chance of rare drops. Sato assured him he had a plan. That evening, Sato went through the odd-numbered dungeon floors, defeating all the bosses. Duke was confident of their victory and reported Sato's progress to HQ. On the way home, Eugene and some lackeys cornered Sato, angry that he ruined their plans. A mage cast a mana storm, hoping to stop Sato's attacks, but Sato, at max strength and with S-rank drop rate, defeated them without weapons, proving magic couldn't stop him. He then healed them, explaining that he understood how they felt but wouldn't let himself get hurt because someone was waiting for him at home. Eugene admitted he was jealous of Sato having someone to wait for him. Sato smiled and said he hadn't always had that person, but maybe Eugene would find someone like that someday. Back at the camp, Emily busies herself preparing food for everyone, filling the air with the inviting aroma of cooking. Celeste praises Sato for all his efforts, but he admits that the Selin dungeon is still not under Sekro's control, so their struggle is far from over. The next morning, Celeste tries to burn a small pile of trash using her Inferno spell, but the effort is too much, and she suddenly collapses. Sato catches her and fires a healing bullet to stabilize her. Surprised, he asks why she used such a powerful spell on such a tiny pile. Celeste explains that she can only cast the level 3 version of Inferno, so even a small effort is exhausting. More trash continues to accumulate, and Celeste prepares to burn it again, but Sato intervenes, insisting he will help. Even with their combined efforts, the piles keep growing. Sato wonders if it is always this bad, and Celeste explains that the dungeon master has appeared, which makes Selin off limits. Everyone has been stress eating, which explains the massive accumulation of trash. Celeste becomes exhausted, so Sato urges her to rest while he handles the workload. Emily escorts her back to camp. Sato struggles to manage the mountain of trash alone, but by the next day, the pile is still there. Frustrated and worried for Celeste, he decides to visit Sekro headquarters to understand the situation better. At headquarters, he finds Neptune and his companions. Duke explains that Neptune's team is supposed to defeat the dungeon master, but they cannot act immediately. They are required to coordinate with Hetero. Hetero refuses to send aid, knowing that the dungeon master's appearance changes dungeon drops, which could give them an advantage since Sekro is close close to victory. Sato volunteers to face the dungeon master himself, but Duke explains that only 3 high-ranking adventurers are allowed inside the dungeon. Sato appeals to Neptune, but he refuses, bound by a contract with Sekiro. Other adventurers also decline, interested only in dungeon loot and avoiding taxes. Back at camp, Emily prepares for battle, determined to join Sato. Celeste insists on helping as well, leaving Eugene in charge of the trash along with a group of supporting adventurers. Sato reminds everyone about the rule limiting entry to 3 top-rank adventurers. Celeste reveals her stats, showing she has 2 rank allies, though her drop rates are poor. With that settled, they enter the Selin dungeon. Inside, the dungeon is eerily empty. Celeste explains that monsters flee when the dungeon master is present, which affects dungeon drops. Suddenly, the ceiling cracks, and the dungeon master appears as a dark horse. Celeste identifies it as a bicorn. Emily attacks immediately, but the bicorn's barrier repels her strike. Sato fires, only to be blocked by the same barrier. The creature charges, forcing Celeste to cast Inferno to stop it. Sato destroys the barrier. Emily lands another hit, but it regenerates quickly. They prepare to repeat the sequence. Meanwhile, at headquarters, Duke learns that Sato has entered the dungeon. Neptune is unsurprised, but Duke worries for Sato, aware of the bicorn's overwhelming strength. Back at the dungeon, the fight continues, and Sato notes the creature's incredible resilience. Suddenly, a magic circle appears around the bicorn. Emily charges, but the sigil drains her, spreading to everyone and lowering most of their stats by 2 ranks. Despite this, Emily shatters the barrier again, though she is thrown back. Celeste is nearly incapacitated by exhaustion and the stat reduction. Sato decides to face the bicorn alone. Celeste worries she has become a burden, but Sato reassures her, praising her contribution. She has never heard such kindness before and feels genuine happiness for the first time. Memories of constant criticism and pressure flood her mind, and she realizes Sato treats her with respect and care. Seeing Sato struggle, Celeste pushes herself beyond her limits and casts Inferno one final time. Destroying the bicorn's barrier, Emily hands Sato her hammer, and he lunges forward, smashing the creature's horns and finally defeating it. After the battle, they check on Celeste, thanking her for her crucial support. She is happy to have helped. Sato offers her the bicorn's drop, and after some insistence from both Sato and Emily, she accepts. The item allows her to cast level 1 magic without limitations. At headquarters, Duke is stunned that the dungeon master has been defeated and rushes to share the news. Neptune's companions congratulate Sato, but fall silent when he asks about Neptune. It turns out Neptune is confronting Hetero's leader, furious that Hetero prevented him from assisting Sato, even though he could have joined the fight. The following morning, Celeste tests the unicorn horns by casting basic magic. She uses level 1 spells to burn piles of trash, and to her surprise, she does not feel drained afterward. Sato walks over and watches her work. Celeste smiles and admits that she never believed she would reach a point where she could use even simple magic. She says the whole thing feels unreal, like she might wake up at any moment. Their talk shifts to the latest announcement from the city. The report confirms that the Selin dungeon's environment has remained stable, with no strange changes at all. Because of this, ownership of the dungeon is now officially granted to the city of Sekiro. Sato lets out a tired laugh and says the past few days have been non-stop trouble, but at least things have finally settled down. Celeste asks when Sato plans to head back to Sekiro. He answers that he is thinking of leaving the next day. She hesitates, clearly uneasy, and struggles to say what is on her mind. Before she can speak, Sato casually asks if she would like to come along with them. Without thinking, she quickly says yes, then pauses in shock at her own answer. Sato explains that after everything they went through together, and after talking about trust and teamwork, he thinks they should make things official and become a proper party. Celeste listens carefully, then says she truly likes that idea. Just as Sato mentions they should ask Emily, she suddenly pops into view, saying she already agrees. She cheerfully admits she was listening the whole time. With a big grin, she announces that the 3 of them are now the Yoda family, adding that she uses that name because Sato's real one is still confusing to her. Laughing together, the group feels excited and ready to move forward into this new stage of their journey. In Sekiro, Eve nibbles on a few small carrots since the ones Sato left are gone. She feels a bit down because these aren't nearly as good, and she misses his carrots a lot. Meanwhile, Sato, Emily, and Celeste are finally returning to Sekiro. The city is busy as usual. Seeing a carrot stand makes Sato think about Eve and how she must be doing. On their way, they run into Ezra. She is happy to see them but looks surprised when Celeste asks who she is. Sato introduces Ezra and explains that the three of them are forming a group. Ezra is stunned, especially that he is teaming up with someone as beautiful as Celeste, but she quickly hides her feelings, complimenting Sato on his skills and saying she is glad a customer has become famous. Ezra then mentions she has a favor to ask regarding the Harvest Festival and tells Sato to come to her shop when he can. She hurries off before anyone can ask more. Since the festival is new to Celeste and Emily, they research it and gather later to talk about it. The Harvest Festival happens once a year in Sekro. Items dropped in dungeons are collected and displayed in an exhibition. Then these items are transformed into stray monsters in an arena. The goal is to show off both the item and the creature it came from. At that moment, Celeste asks why they are standing by the entrance of the Nihonium dungeon. Sato explains that he went to the dungeon's 3rd floor to train his speed, quickly reaching the maximum rank. On the 4th floor, he had some trouble, but eventually beat the monsters and collected seeds that boosted his vitality. He shows Celeste the box he used to store them. Soon, the collected drops turn into several mimics. Sato defeats them quickly, turning the loot into dark ammunition called binding bullets. Celeste wonders how strays can drop items, and Sato admits it is a secret he usually keeps, but shows her now since she is part of their group. Suddenly, an explosion shakes the city. Citizens run around shouting that a rare drop has turned into a stray. The group rushes to the scene. The creature looks strange, and neither Celeste's flame tower nor Emily's hammer can hurt it. Sato grabs the monster, tosses it, and shoots binding bullets that trap it on the ground, finishing it with another double shot. The monster drops a bag. During the fight, Emily's hammer gets bent. She tries to fix it, but ends up breaking it completely. That night, Eve hears that Sato faced a stray, confirming he has returned to the city. The next day, a weapons merchant named Smith comes to the Sato family offering to replace Emily's broken hammer. Since the group is famous in Sekro, he wants to give her a new hammer for free in exchange for publicity. Emily hesitates but eventually accepts. Later, Sato meets the princess's group again in Nihonium. He asks how their sales are going, and it turns out their products are not selling well. He suggests promoting something new. The first idea is too revealing, so he proposes creating a line of princess rings instead. The man running the shop loves the idea, but the princess is suddenly attacked by undead. Sato quickly defeats them and saves her. The princess thanks him, and the man offers Sato the first ring from the new brand. He refuses, but the princess insists that he should have the first piece. Meanwhile, Emily tests a hammer handle for the next weapon. Eve appears, looking for Sato. Emily tells her he went to Nihonium first, then to Lulu, and then Ezra's store. Eve rushes to Nihonium. At this time, Sato is in Lulu with a pouch on his waist. The bag he got from the strange stray automatically collects items, which is why the princess and others never noticed he had picked up the seeds from undead monsters. He plans to sell some of the items for profit. Back in Nihonium, Eve searches everywhere for Sato. She cannot find him, so she heads to the market and meets Ezra. Celeste has not arrived yet. Later, Sato appears to make a sale and hear Ezra's request about the Harvest Festival. Ezra asks what he knows about the festival. Sato explains that dungeon drops are collected and transformed into strays for the arena. She wants him to gather rare items that normal adventurers cannot get. Of course, he will be paid. Sato accepts. Ezra gives him a list of items. Another vendor also agrees to buy the items Sato has already collected. In total, he receives 40,000 pylos, though most of it is in small coins. Sato finds out that the person in charge of collecting money in the dungeons was arrested for corruption. This caused a shortage of pylos in circulation. He is surprised to learn that even money can drop in a dungeon and decides to see what kind of stray appears from a 10,000 pylo note. When the monster shows up, it is a huge blue bird that immediately takes flight. Sato fires at it right away, but the creature is too fast and none of his shots hit. He switches to homing bullets, and when the bird is finally defeated, the dropped item goes straight into his pouch. It is a potion that increases the drop rate of plants by 3 levels for 10 minutes. Since Sato already has the maximum all-drop rank, the potion is useless to him. Suddenly, Eve appears, grabs him, and knocks him to the ground. She demands her carrots. They head to the 2nd level of Tululu, where Sato collects several carrots for her. The rabbit girl is overjoyed and begins eating immediately. Sato suggests that she could have asked her teammates for carrots since she wanted them so much, but she insists that none of the other carrots are as good as his. She also stopped traveling with the group because their dungeon vision is different from hers. Sato does not understand what she means. Eve explains that she is a rabbit who only cares about carrots, while the others want different things. Disagreements like this happen often. She says rabbits are strong and don't mind being alone, and companions just make trouble. At that moment, Eve shares her story with him. She says she used to live with other rabbits in a dungeon but preferred eating only meat. She refused to eat vegetables, and when her companions insisted, she ran away, having her first argument with them. Later, she fought a buffalo that was supposed to drop a carrot but instead dropped a boy. She thought he was a ghost in a haunted mansion. When another buffalo appeared, she weakened it so the boy could finish it by throwing an item at it, which caused a carrot to drop. At first, Eve told him to throw it away because she hated carrots, but the boy insisted that you can't be picky with food. He split the carrot in half to share with her, making her try it. She ended up liking the taste very much. Seeing this, the boy gave her the other half, and this act made Eve think he was a good companion. Shortly afterward, the boy started to glow and disappeared. Distant voices could be heard, probably his parents asking where he had gone, while he told them he had defeated a huge monster. Back in the present, Eve tells Sato that because of that boy, she now seeks out delicious carrots at any cost. That is why she says companions are not good. Sato comments that her view is extreme, but advises her to gather her own carrots so she does not have to rely on others. The problem is that Eve's drop rate is very low, only ranked E. Sato says he has something for her. He takes out the potion that dropped earlier and tells her to drink it. Eve obeys, and only then does he explain that with her drop rate at rank D, drinking this potion should raise her to rank A. She tests her new ability by defeating the first green slime she sees. This time, the carrot that drops is almost as large as the ones Sato collects. She tastes it and genuinely enjoys both the flavor and the satisfaction of getting it herself. Afterward, she asks where she can buy a potion like this. Sato explains that it is not sold anywhere because it is a special item only he can drop. Eve is shocked and suddenly begins begging to join his group. Her request comes so suddenly that Sato reminds her of what she said earlier about not wanting companions. She admits she was wrong, saying companions are good because they provide potions and excellent carrots. Sato points out that this is not really the definition of a companion, as that is something unique to him. Still, the rabbit girl continues to beg at his feet so persistently that he finally agrees. She hugs him tightly, confessing her love. The next day, Celeste wakes up feeling unwell, suffering from a headache caused by a magic storm. As a magic user, she always struggles during these storms, but she knows that she will feel better once it passes. Keeping this in mind, Sato decides that instead of exploring a dungeon that day, they should look for a larger house since the group is growing. He wonders if there might be a house that can lessen the effects of a magic storm, and to everyone's surprise, there is one. The group finds a house that meets Sato's requirements. The moment the door closes behind them, Celeste's headache instantly disappears. The seller explains that the property has very modern magic storm prevention systems, making it ideal for magic users. Emily is immediately enchanted by the huge kitchen. With all these advantages, the price is extremely high, 400,000 pylos. The girls are shocked, but Sato immediately agrees, because his first priority is a house where Celeste and Emily can always be happy. Seeing how much better Celeste feels, he has no doubts about his choice. They proceed with the move, and the next day, after the magic storm has passed, the house is completely organized and spotless, thanks to Emily, who manages to finish everything in just one day. Celeste asks what they should do today, and Eve suggests searching for carrots. Sato, however, wants to prioritize the list of rare items that Ezra requested for the Harvest Festival. He plans to hunt rare monsters on the 7th floor of Tululu while also gathering some carrots for Eve. Then Emily appears with breakfast, and everyone gathers to eat. The 7th floor of Tululu has a strange feature. It is snowy. Sato finds it unusual that a dungeon floor would snow, but Celeste explains that some floors in dungeons naturally have unique environments. He compliments her knowledge, and she quietly accepts, secretly feeling pleased. As they continue, they encounter the same trio of adventurers they saw on another floor long ago, the two young ones and the old man. The old man gives a short speech about about how moved he is by their progress, praising the young ones for how much stronger they have become through effort. Sato jokingly remarks that they must have been completely brainwashed. Emily notices his expression, but he quickly brushes it off. Next, they come across a different monster, a pink slime with fire on its head that also ignites its eyes. Sato fires 2 shots, then tries several other attacks, but none of them harm the creature. The slime counterattacks with a charge move. Celeste warns that this is a tough type of slime that becomes invulnerable when near death, not taking damage from the last person who attacked it. Therefore, one person must weaken it so another can finish it. Celeste defeats the slime with a fire attack. Eve comments that these creatures are designed to challenge solo players and are quite common. Their plan for this floor is to let the girls handle the monsters so Sato can deliver the final blow. They manage to get onion drops from the slime. Eve, however, is not interested in onions and says she only likes carrots. Emily suggests making curry with potato, onion, and carrot to catch Eve's interest. Sato finds this amusing. Before they can continue discussing curry, a stronger purple slime with different eyes and fire attacks hits Sato. He realizes that this is the rare monster on this floor. Celeste explains that it is an ultra-tough slime, requiring a second person to help defeat it. It also has a dangerous ability, near death. It reflects all attacks aimed at it. They must carefully weaken it. Eve volunteers to handle the weakening because she remembers the monster's HP from a previous encounter. She attacks first, and Sato finishes it off. The monster drops a blue gem that can reflect some attacks when equipped. Before leaving the dungeon, they go to the second floor to test the gem's effect. Sato holds the item while a green slime attacks him. The reflected damage defeats the slime. The gem is interesting, but Sato realizes it would still be faster to attack the monster directly. He then takes the item to sell to Ezra. She recognizes it immediately as a rare item from the 7th floor and calls it a slime tear. She does not hesitate to buy it from him. Thanks to Sato, her store's ranking and trust level continue to rise. She pays the full value of the item, 3 million pylos, a remarkable price just in time for the Harvest Festival. As they leave the shop, the group notices a young girl in green trying to join a team. No one will accept her, and Ezra seems moved. Later, Sato is on the 5th floor of Nihonium Dungeon, facing a fast skeleton. With his rank SP, he defeats it easily. The seed it drops raises his MP, which he knows is needed for magic, but he still doesn't know how to learn spells. With Celeste's guidance, he spends 3 million pylos on an akumo me, a magical fruit. Normally, people learn magic as they level up, but Sato cannot, so eating the fruit allows him to gain a random spell. Before eating it, he transforms into a stray. The fruit's monster becomes a metal sphere shaped like him, fast and strong, with about 80% of his attributes. After a short battle, he defeats it, earning another fruit. He learns 2 spells, Cutting Wind, a level 1 wind magic, and another reserved spell. He demonstrates it on a blue slime that Celeste had already weakened. Sato uses the reserved spell and fires a binding bullet so Emily can finish it. The drop is excellent, and the spell allows him to transfer drop rank to whoever defeats the monster. Emily is thrilled, and the group grows excited about their increasing power. The next day, Sato helps Ezra carry heavy boxes to the market. There, the girl in green reappears. She meets the nasty old man from earlier who praises her potential, explaining she's young and only level 2. Sato interrupts, declaring he wants her in his group and won't let her join the old man's. Ezra celebrates, announcing she is joining the Yoda family, the most famous group in the city. Other adventurers confirm Sato's reputation. The girl introduces herself as Alice. Sato checks her status, noting her low attributes, and takes her to Nihonium Dungeon to level up. Alice, nostalgic about being born in a dungeon, shows she can sense monsters. Using this, they find skeletons. Sato restrains them with binding bullets while Alice finishes them with rocks. Her stats barely increase as she is already at level 2. She asks to leave because a skeleton told her to return soon. Sato follows her and restrains the skeleton. This time, it glows and shrinks into a mini skeleton, which now walks with them. They take it, named Bones. Back at the Tululu dungeon, Bones grows slightly and fights a blue slime, then restores all damage afterward. Bones treats Alice as an older sister. Later, Bones hears a slime's call call, leading them to a blue slime. It wants to be defeated as well. The slime shrinks and joins them as Jelly. Alice explains Bones is female and Jelly is male. Back home, Celeste notices Eve eating a carrot burger. Delighted by it, she comments on Alice's cute creatures and tries to pet them, but Bones and Jelly hide. Emily and Eve react similarly, amused. The group sits together. Alice introduces herself. Sato says he wants her in the group, and Celeste agrees. Eve is pleased Alice doesn't like carrots, avoiding competition. Emily welcomes them too. Alice is thrilled, and when Bones and Jelly settle on her shoulders, Celeste nearly faints from their cuteness. The Sato family has grown larger, and Sato feels the coming days will be even more exciting. On the day of the Harvest Festival, Sato found only Emily at home. Celeste and Eve had gone to Tululu, where a large batch of carrots had appeared, and Alice stayed behind in her old house, as the others were still hesitant to let her come. Since Celeste was attending the festival, Sato went along with her. The festival was lively, full of colorful decorations, bustling stalls, and the smells of various foods. Emily's excitement was contagious, far higher than usual, likely because she had grown up in a dungeon and had never experienced a festival like this. At one stall, she spotted a collection of trinkets she found adorable. Sato asked which she liked most, and when the vendor mentioned the price, Emily hesitated, as she often did. Sato, however, showed no doubt and bought the trinket for her. She immediately attached it to her hammer to keep it close at all times. Later, they met Alice, who told them about a strange stall. The vendor claimed to sell experience points, but in truth, he had dungeon drops from a monster called a galvanic rat. The creature granted large amounts of experience to anyone who defeated it. By leaving a box at the stall, a stray would generate for fast leveling. This was especially useful for Emily, since Alice and Sato could no longer gain levels. They set up a box and waited for the creature to appear. When the galvanic rat spawned, Sato immobilized it with a binding bullet. Before Emily finished it off, he used his reserve magic to transfer the drop rates. Emily struck with her hammer, and the monster dropped a purple bullet. Alice was amazed, as she had believed these strays didn't drop items. The system announced the item as a strengthening bullet. Curious, Sato tested it. The first shot produced a magical symbol, and firing a normal bullet made it far more powerful. The strengthening bullet enhanced other bullets, making them much stronger. Seeing its usefulness, Sato bought more boxes to collect additional ammunition. After gathering the bullets, the trio continued through the festival. A commotion drew their attention. A goblin-like monster, part of the festival, had escaped from its cage. Panic spread through the crowd as it approached a defenseless child. Sato ran forward to protect her. The creature fell but was not defeated. When it got up, it had grown larger, seemingly absorbing the force of their attacks. Sato realized they needed backup. At that moment, the Neptune group appeared. The red-haired leader greeted Sato and noted how much the monster had grown. Sato asked for help to protect the city, and the group immediately responded. The girls simultaneously conjured dark and light magic circles beneath Neptune, which merged into one, and two wings, one black and one white, appeared on his back. The redhead announced he would demonstrate the power of the Neptune family. Sato coordinated their attack, firing a binding bullet to immobilize the monster. Emily struck it in the head with her hammer, while Sato continued shooting. Neptune unleashed a luminous beam to the chest, finally defeating the creature. The child's mother thanked them, explaining she had lost her daughter earlier in the festival. The girl approached Sato to express her gratitude and said she wanted to become a great adventurer like him. Sato advised her to always do her best, remembering Emily's words that hard work is always rewarded. Later, Celeste and Eve returned from the dungeon. They had heard about the monster in the city and came to help but arrived too late. With the Neptune group's assistance, the situation had already been resolved. Neptune offered Sato a chance to join them, but he politely declined. Neptune accepted the refusal, satisfied with having fought alongside him that day. After the Neptune group left, Celeste said she was glad their friends were safe. Since the girls were hungry, Sato suggested lunch and visiting some festival stalls that were still open. They wandered through various stalls, enjoying games and shopping. Alice fed Bones and Jelly, and Celeste commented on how cute they were. The highlight was seeing Eve eat a skewer barbecue, her first time trying something other than carrots. She explained that rabbits liked meat too. Alice noticed a stall selling carrot-based foods, but Eve refused, insisting she only ate high-quality carrots. Sato told her not to be so picky, and she teased him for being cheeky despite his low level. After lunch, they continued exploring. While eating candied apples, Alice spotted a group of monsters in the distance. Sato initially thought it was another stray, but Celeste explained it was the arena. Items collected in dungeons were turned into strays for fighters in pairs, with the winners receiving rare items. Interested, Sato decided to participate. Emily asked who his partner would be, and he chose Celeste. She was surprised and emotional, but he explained it was a strategic decision because of her knowledge, slightly disappointing her as she had hoped to be more than just a battle companion. The stands were packed, and the girls cheering outside supported them. They faced an ultra-tough slime. Celeste immediately used fire attacks, and Sato noted she seemed more aggressive than usual, with the slime on fire and charging at them. Sato finished it with a well-placed shot. The audience cheered, and Sato praised Celeste for mastering the technique of reducing the monster's hit points just enough. She thanked him and promised to work harder to be a special companion like Emily. Sato told her she already was very special, making her blush again. After the festival, Sato asked to see the rare item they had won. Celeste revealed a package of fireworks, which none of the girls recognized. Sato demonstrated how to use them, and they were all fascinated. He remarked he hadn't played with fireworks since childhood and enjoyed sharing the moment. Alice said it was her first festival, and she was very happy. Suddenly, she began walking as if in a trance. Sato rushed to her and snapped her out of it. Alice explained she felt someone calling her. Sato asked for the direction, and she pointed toward Nihonium. Celeste guessed it might be a monster trying to befriend her, but Alice thought it was something else. Eve wished it was a creature that could provide infinite carrots, while Emily joked about feeling sorry for such a carrot friend. Sato told them to investigate later and asked Alice to stay home, warning Celeste not to scare Bones and Jelly. The next day, Sato was summoned by the dungeon chief of Sekro, Clint. The bald man offered coffee and explained that nothing had dropped in any of the 6 city dungeons since the previous night. Sato was surprised. Clint admitted he didn't know how long it would last and asked Sato to investigate, trusting only him to handle it. A little while later, Sato first went to Tululu with the girls. Emily defeated a slime, but it didn't drop anything. The same happened on nearby floors. They encountered a pair of concerned adventurers, worried because without drops, they couldn't pay bills or support families. Sato continued exploring. Celeste noted that prices were rising, and people were stockpiling goods. Eve caught a slime and told Sato to make it drop a carrot. Although he said it was pointless, he tried, and the slime dropped a carrot as usual. It seemed only Sato could generate drops at that moment. Remembering Alice's feeling of being called and Emily's earlier comment about Nihonium, Sato realized something and ran to Nihonium. On the 4th floor, a girl suddenly appeared in front of him. Sato drew his gun, blaming her for the dungeon drop issue, realizing she was the master of the Nihonium dungeon. He fired, but the bullet passed through her. She approached and struck him with a powerful blow, sending him flying. Sato continued to face the dungeon master, testing every variation of his special ammunition, but all the bullets passed through her without damage. She cornered him with rapid physical attacks, proving she was stronger and faster. Yet Sato refused to give up. Suddenly, she stopped to remove a projectile stuck in her foot, the only shot that had hit. Understanding her vulnerability, Sato loaded homing bullets and fired carefully. Each time she attacked, he targeted the exposed part of her body, hitting her hands, feet, and other materialized limbs. Using this strategy, he weakened her enough to match her strength, finally overpowering the dungeon master. Exhausted, he collapsed after delivering the finishing shots. Later, Emily found him and helped him regain his strength by firing a healing bullet at him. Sato thanked her, and Emily excitedly confirmed that dungeon drops had returned to normal. He had effectively saved Sekro, though Emily scolded him for risking himself, pointing out that even if he could survive fatal injuries, he still felt pain. Sato admitted that he hadn't been thinking about saving the city during the fight. On the ground, he noticed the dungeon master's dropped item, a mysterious ring. As they left Nihonium, the other girls arrived. Celeste reminded him not to face danger alone, and Sato promised to be more careful. Eve missed his carrots, so they stopped by Tululu before returning home, all the girls following. The next day, Sato returned to Nihonium's 1st floor to test the ring. A horde of skeletons appeared, and he fought, collecting blue crystals afterward. Princess Margaret's group arrived, and a man explained that selling her rings wouldn't work because the targets were dragons. Margaret, though level 94 with a maximum of 99, had F ranks in combat and drop stats. Feeling sympathy, Sato handed her a crystal, instantly raising her to level 95 and improving her stats to E. The ring converted experience points beyond beyond the maximum level into crystals, allowing rapid advancement. He continued giving crystals, raising Margaret to level 96, and showing that her evolution was significant at higher levels. Grateful, she confirmed that the first ring would belong to Sato. Back home, the family gathered around carrots and beansprouts Sato had bought. His goal was to maximize everyone's levels. He explained the ring's effect, which was more efficient than previous methods. Only Sato and Alice were at max level initially, but Eve revealed she was also at max. She hesitated to use the carrots, reserving them for eating, but Sato convinced her they could enhance the flavor afterward. They waited for the items to become strays, then Sato fired several rounds. Regular bullets automatically entered his magical bag, while the blue crystals were collected by Emily and Celeste, helping them level up. Celeste marveled at Sato's perfected evolution method. Eve patiently waited for her carrots. Soon, Emily reached level 40 with HP at rank A and slightly improved drop rates. Celeste hit max level 54, with MP at rank A and much better drop rates. Emily remarked it felt unfair that Sato didn't gain counted experience, but he noted that he had improved regardless. With everyone at max level, Sato planned the next phase, spreading out for individual exploration in areas matching their skills to gauge team performance and earnings. He prepared potions to enhance drop levels, emphasizing no one should overexert themselves and that they should reunite for dinner. The family trained individually, Emily attacking slim rats, Sato with his pistols, Celeste using magic, Alice supporting with bones and jelly, and Eve collecting carrot drops. After 6 days, they compared results. Eve's total was equivalent to 120,000 pylos, mostly eaten. Emily earned 160,000 pylos, Alice and Celeste together over 200,000, and Sato accumulated over 1.5 million pylos. Combined, the family made more than 2 million pylos. Sato bought magical carts for everyone to improve efficiency. These carts sent collected items directly to a home-based exit, allowing uninterrupted dungeon exploration. Alice worried about transporting all the items later, so Sato consulted Ezra. She offered a solution: she would work exclusively for the Sato family, handling logistics and accounting daily except on holidays, effectively joining the family. Sato felt grateful for being reborn in this world. The day of Ezra's welcome party arrived, with the Neptunes, Princess Margaret, the magical cart salesman and his daughter, and the Sekro Dungeon Association leader attending. Gifts included sugar and a free year of membership. Eve complained about the lack of carrots, Celeste worried about the high number of female visitors, and Emily was delighted by the crowd. Reflecting on his journey, Sato realized how lucky he was to have received so many abilities and to have found such valuable friends. The scene then ends on a light note, with Sato noting that the food would run out quickly and he'd need to return to the dungeon to get some more. That was the end. Watch next video on screen and subscribe to not miss more recaps.